Today we discuss some sad news. The submarine that mission that tried to reach the shipwreck of Titanic looks like all hope is lost. It's probably exploded. That's the latest news that we get. At least it means the people didn't suffer that much. So this was a tragedy, but for me, it was also an insight into the darkness in many people's soul. Because recently we had two kinds of tragedies. There was the tragedy of the migrants that were drawn in Mediterranean. Hundreds of people died. And normal human rules of civility means that unless you're like a vile racist, you empathize, these people were going for a better life. This was something very, very, very tragic. And it monopolized actually the news in Greece for many days, although we're 3 days away from election. But this time with the submarine, because the people inside the submarine were not were not refugees, they were millionaires, they were rich. So different rules apply to them. There's no sympathy, there's no empathy, and even there is Schadenfreude, there is like sassy, supposedly funny comments about them, and particularly within the left. So this is what we're going to discuss today with Thomas and with Jacques, which apparently I'm not pronouncing as it should be, but Jacques it is.
So I've already said I love how you pronounce it, Nikos.
So we keep it like that. We keep it at Jacques. So the way I got this insight to the soul of so many people is that I quote tweeted a tweet by a very prominent leftist in the UK, As Sarkar, and then she quote tweeted my quote tweet with a reply. She made a comment something like, if you have enough money to do this underwater expedition, you have enough money to be taxed more. So I was thinking, look, like someone is dying and this is what you have to say. And my comment was, looks like you're more motivated by envy rather than by wanting the poor to be well or better off. So she quote tweeted me, and then I got hundreds of replies by leftists. And the replies were mostly in two categories. The one were the vile categories, where they openly tell you, yes, we hate them. The fact that they're millionaires means they're bad people. But there was also a second interesting reply, which says, look, they had the opportunity to relieve the pain of so many people. They could have done something else with their money rather than go and do underwater tourism, and they didn't. And this proves that they're bad people. So I thought, wow, how clear we see for once what is the moral code of our time. The moral code that says that any success you have is now a burden of you, and it means that the mortgage that you have to repay to everyone else just got bigger. Anyway, Jacques, how did you expect this, or whatever comes to your mind with this very sad story of the submarine wreck?
Well, it was interesting because I didn't find out about the submersible, they're calling it, tragedy, until like 2 days ago. It was very, very recently. And I started following it avidly. It kind of reminded me of the soccer players that were trapped in the boys that were trapped in the what was it? It was a cave, I think it had been. Something had gotten cave. They'd gone and explored the caves, and I was like, oh my God, this, like amazing rescue efforts are going on. I hope that this ends in saving of these lives, so that we can, demonstrate just the humanity of people, right, and caring for other people. And I got my first glimpse of what the unfortunate thread or theme of what we're talking about today yesterday, when I was reading a post from a Facebook friend of mine who is I need to say this, he's a fellow writer. He is a dyed-in-the-wool progressive. I need to say that specifically. And he wrote this beautiful post about, look, these people, they deserve to live. They, you know, if I had the money to go and do wonderful things like this, I would do it. I mean, it was, you know, for all intents and purposes, it was, you know, the most objectivist post I've read. And this dyed-in-the-wool progressive got destroyed by people, basically saying what you're saying, Nikos. And I was shocked, and I don't know why I should be shocked. I don't know why this surprises me, because I mean, we've had themes of this all the way running up to today's times with people hating the good for being good. But it was just, I just found it disgusting. It made me sick to my stomach. I couldn't believe that it's like they're dancing on the graves of these people. They're not even dead yet. Literally. Yeah. And for what? For what?
Because they're rich. That's the thing. Notice. Yeah. 1 week ago, we had other dark souls dancing in graves. But at least these dark souls were like open racists. And we know these people, and these people are, no one likes them. Let's put it this way. If you are saying, oh, these people were like invaders or whatever, so, you know, I don't care. No one pays attention to these people. But these are supposedly the good guys. These are supposedly the friends of humanity. These are supposedly the people with empathy. I was seeing people commenting hate-filled comments, and out of curiosity, I was checking their Twitter like banner, how it's called, and some of them had like love not hate, hate not welcome here. And I was like, wow. There was a guy who was writing who says, hey, I went and checked the book you wrote, and I'm so glad it didn't sell well. And I was thinking, wow, this guy is supposed to be like a lover of humanity. I mean, the fact that he is not sad for the dead people, that's the big thing. The big thing is not that that I have a problem that my book is not like a bestseller. But imagine someone who's like, this, I disagree with this guy, so let me find out that this guy has not succeeded in his life, and now, it's like, now I'm happy again. It's like they want to see failure. They want to see failure, either on the small level, like you didn't sell books, or on the big level, that the people who made a lot of money are down on the bottom of the ocean, and this somehow relaxes them. It's like, yes, my view of life, the darkness in my soul is verified. Thomas, what's your take? I'll be fixing something to my camera. I can still hear you though. Go on.
So I was very late to the party in hearing about this news, and my whole exposure has been reading Nikos's Twitter feed about it. And as I read it, I was just overcome by sadness. Some of the venom people were putting out there, but trying to disguise it as humor, thinking that they're funny, almost trying to, it's a bit like the bear that's chained at the circus, and they're like sticking it with a needle, like with some swords to get it to dance and entertain, and all the matadors and the bulls, and they're trying to get their cheer from the crowd for being brave enough to prod something that can't defend itself. But I think the most overwhelming sensation I was getting was just the dehumanization of these millionaires, for example. I can't even see what their names are, right? I don't know if that's been released or not, but that's the only thing that I can see on these people. But that, like I said, my exposure has been very limited. But it is just full-on dehumanization. And it appears that the people that haven't managed to create something for themselves view those who can not as people, but as reminders of the failures or the lack of potential that they are. I see it all the time in the fitness world. When people start losing a bit of weight, what's the first thing people say? Oh, don't lose too much weight. Or,
we saw it with Adele, so that people understand that we're not straw manning here. What you say, we saw it with Adele. She lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And many people said, this is a betrayal.
Yeah. It's the same thing. It's just dehumanization. You are no longer one of us. You are one of them. And we are not going to define what them is. We just know that I can no longer identify or relate to you because you have actually done something for yourself. You've actually succeeded.
This is are you guys familiar with the analogy of the crab bucket?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With crab behavior, right? The crabs, and it's actually true. Crabs, when they're caught in a bucket, if one tries to flee, if one tries to find a better life for itself, all the other crabs drag him down. And this is exactly it. These people may as well have drowned these people themselves, as far as I'm concerned. All the ones who are showering hate upon these people who absolutely deserve the exact opposite.
But can I ask you something, people? So Zach said something about the crabs in the bucket. The person who started all this discussion, who made me see it's not like basement dwellers, losers. It's almost prominent leftist. So as Sarkari, someone who is successful, very successful. She has like 500,000 followers. She's self-created. They've created this Novara media, it's huge. So we're talking about people who should know what it means to work hard, because I'm sure she works hard. They should know these things. So this for me makes it even more mysterious. And again, so that people don't think we are straw manning. At some point, I put the question straight to some of the people who were putting all this here. So I said, so if someone is a millionaire, you think they are de facto by default evil? And I got yes answers. And I was thinking, these people, the leftists, don't they stop for a second to think, have I seen this behavior, this way of thinking from anyone else which I don't like? Have I seen this, for example, from the racists, saying, maybe individual immigrants are okay, but immigrants as a group, I hate them. Or anti-Semites. Yeah, maybe this individual Jew is not a bad person, but Jews as a group, I hate them. Like, how can they miss that they're doing exactly the same thing? Supposedly, they've given their whole intellectual life on fighting racism and anti-Semitism and all that stuff. Can't they see that they're doing exactly the same othering, dehumanizing, stereotyping?
Well, I think when you say it like that, I'm reminded of a quote from Donald Miller, who said that the hero and the villain have the same backstory often. Like the world has in some way hurt them. Like the hero is normally orphaned or abandoned. The villain has like an injury or a lisp or some sort of deformed style. And the only difference between them is how they respond to the world. The hero will say, I experienced this and I want to make sure no one ever has to go through this like I did, a more protector style. And the villain will say, the world hurt me, so I'm going to hurt it back. And you see that in some people where no matter how hard they seem to try, or they're more afraid of being vulnerable and creating something that means something to them in case it gets taken away or torn away from them. So instead they become destroyers of other people and build themselves a throne, as it were, on the skulls of people they destroy.
Yeah,
anyway,
well said. Very well said.
And again, it's sad. And of course, the big news is not that the left is hate. The big news is that these people died, and this is the tragic. But once in a while, you have the opportunity to really see clear what motivates some people. And again, I don't like blank statements. Everyone in the left is motivated by envy. No, many are mistaken, many are. But I don't know. I don't want to generalize, but I think these 2 days I learned more about so many people on the left than in years of reading textbooks and reading reading books. It's like with Ayn Rand when she saw Apollo and Woodstock. And it's like I see in front of me concretized the two senses of life. And the same was this week. The two different tragedies. In the one, these people were people in need, therefore they deserve sympathy. In the other one, these are people who were not in need, and therefore, what were they doing there? Why were they not servicing people? So looks like if you're a successful, service is a mortgage, that the more successful you become, the heavier the mortgage. This is for people who say that, oh, Ayn Rand is hyperbolic or Ayn Rand is straw manning. We'll move to a lighter topic for the second part, but let's see what the audience say. Thank you, Robert. Daniel likes the Jacques pronunciation. Thank you very much, Marilyn. Catherine says, people losing their humanity. Response is disheartening. It is. And this is like collectivism is poison. Collectivism is poison for the soul. Kiana says, just because someone has more money than you, that doesn't make them bad people. True. I bet if it was them on board or their family, they wouldn't be like this and would be begging for people to help. And again, for me, that's the big mystery. Many of the people who saw this envy and this hate, they are themselves successful. Jonathan says, Nikos went viral. I wish. So that tweet of mine got 250,000 views, but 99.9999 of them are to a leftist audience that replied with hate. So Marilyn says, would they refuse $1 million because it's evil? That's a very good question. They would probably say, it's okay for me to have the million because I gladly pay it in taxes.
Or I'm going to do something good with it.
I'm going to do something good with it. Bernie Sanders said that. My book did well, so why not? But then I would ask them, why pay 80% in taxes and not 99%? Or why 99% and not 99.9999? Because today they have envy for the billionaires. They say openly, we want to tax them out of existence. Then they will have a problem with the millionaires. And then in 5 years, they will have a problem with you who have put like 5,000 in the bank.
You know, something I find interesting on that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a conversation I've had with someone about this before. And when they're so hard on like the rich need to be taxed, I'm like, okay, if that's a principle that you are, if that's your hill to die on, that people should be taxed, right? What are you doing? When was the last time you got your tax bill and actually said, you know what, I'm going to pay more tax? And instantly they're like, no. Well, I'm taxed way too much considering for what I earn. I'm like, well, you know, if, like I said, if it's a principle, if that's your hill to die on, and you think everyone should be paying more tax to help those less fortunate, you know, unless you're one of those less fortunate people, there are people less fortunate than you. So when was the last time you sat down and gave more tax, more than you owed?
It becomes literally a downward spiral then, like who has less. Anyway, again, very sad, very, very sad topic.
I'm holding out hope. I'm still holding out hope. I saw something an hour ago from the co-founder of what is Ocean? Is it Ocean Guard? That the people could still have air because they're very skilled at what they do, and they could be maximizing the amount of air. I don't know. In the face of all of this negativity that everybody, all the shade that everybody's throwing on it, I'm going to be the one hopeful person.
Well, let's hope, because I remember some years ago when I saw the Chilean miners be saved. Every time, because I would use this in class as an example of like human persevering, I would get emotional every time. And again, how someone can be in this position and not root for the ones that are to be saved. Anyway, something slightly lighter. We started it last week, but we didn't. It was just a sneak preview. You can go to dinner with 3 people. They don't have to be the three at the same time, so they don't need to match. Who are these three people? Ayn Rand is out of the discussion because it would be predictable. Although for the record, I wouldn't put Ayn Rand because I've read so much and I know people who know her. So in a way, I feel like I know her. Plus, I think I would be a bit star-stuck. Anyway, Thomas, each one of us gives one. Then we go a second round. If we have time, we'll get to three people. Otherwise, maybe we stop at two. First person you'd invite for dinner.
First person I'd invite for dinner would have to be Lee Evans. He's a British comedian. I think he was like...
I'll have to Google him because I'm that...
I think he was the first comedian to prove that it was possible to sell out entire stadiums of like 100,000 people or something like that. And he's very physical comedy, very observational comedy, and he has a direct route to my funny bone. So to be able to sit there and just enjoy an evening of laughter would be amazing.
Sounds cool.
Which is funny. I was actually one of the ones I was thinking of, but I didn't end up choosing was Ricky Gervais, who would be hilarious. But he didn't end up on my list, unfortunately.
So who is your number one, Zax?
My number one, this is so predictable for me, but my number one would be David Bowie. My absolute idol in art and music. And, you know, even though I know so much about him already, he had such an interesting private life that I think I would get to know a completely different side of Bowie were I to have a dinner with him. And just and I think my criteria for these people that I want to go out to dinner with is what could they teach me, not so much about, you know, what kind of, you know, what do I want to spill about my life, what could they teach me about their perspective and their point of view, what could I learn from it. And I absolutely know I wouldn't be bored for a millisecond if I had a 3-hour dinner with Bowie.
Nice.
So Lee Evans, David Bowie. For me, there would be two categories. One would be I want to learn stuff. The other is curiosity. So I'll start with the curiosity so that I mix the waters a bit. The first invitation for a dinner would be to Stalin. So why Stalin? It's a person who has fascinated me. But also, when it comes to evil, he's the most difficult to understand. Hitler, for example, qua evil person, is easily understandable. You are a horrible person with horrible ideas. You put these horrible ideas in action. I hate the Jews. I do the Holocaust. It's unbelievable evil, but qua evil, it makes sense. With Stalin is one step beyond that. It's evil, which doesn't make sense even as evil. So first of all, I would be interested in, like, how did you do it? How did you become the most powerful person in the world? How did you start with a group of 10 people, literally, and then ended up owning, like having control on 1/3 of the world? And also, why did you do the terror? Why did you kill and persecute the people around you? And by doing this, you made your own situation weaker. For me, this is one of the biggest mysteries in the world, the period of great terror in Soviet Union. But also, how does it feel? You were living for almost more than 3 decades in constant paranoia, looking behind your back. I was like, why? What did you get out of it? Again, it's all curiosity. It's all historical curiosity. So, you know, objectively say evil is impotent and all that stuff. Still, I would be fascinated to have a very long discussion with Stalin, just in terms of understanding him better.
Evil can also be very interesting.
Yeah. Particularly when it doesn't make sense, even qua evil, which is what is the situation with Stalin. So
yeah, would
Thomas,
you go out? So would you have dinner with with Stalin as a dictator, or with Stalin in his younger life, all the events leading up to him becoming the authoritarian dictator?
No, because in his younger life, he was relatively boring. That's the thing. Stalin was not a psychopath in terms of, there was something wrong in his brain, or when he was a child, someone beat him. As he was growing old, being the leader of the Soviet Union, he became that type of person. And my explanation is, if you want to lead the communist country, you can only do it by being that kind of person. The Soviet Union needs a Stalin. A regime based on envy and destruction needs someone like Stalin in its will. That's why when weaker people than Stalin got in the will, the Soviet Union collapsed. Of course, it wouldn't have stood forever, even if someone like Stalin was there. But I think he was the right person, because that's exactly the type of people that such a regime would require. Thomas, who would be, so you've had your dinner with Lee Evans. Next week, you can have a dinner with a second person. Who is that person now?
The next choice is going to be quite an interesting one. So it would be Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton is my, in terms of my favorite business people of all time, Dolly Parton is in my top 5. When you think about the industry that she was in, dominated by like men at the time, and she was able to go into boardrooms, not only hold her own, but also walk away with everything that she wanted. The genius of that woman in terms of a creator, and the fact that throughout her entire life, she lived or is living exactly the way she wants to live. When people were slating her about her cosmetic surgery and it's like, oh, Dolly, you look so cheap, she would just come back with and say, well, it takes a lot of money to look this cheap. And just so unapologetically herself, and to understand, like, she knew the value of boredom and space and active patience to allow ideas to percolate and to get inspiration and to create all these different things. Just to be able to sit there and figure out how she thinks and how she processes and negotiates through these moments, I just think would be fascinating.
That's a great choice.
Dolly Parton. So, Zax, who would be your number 2 a week after David Bowie?
A week after Bowie. So I kind of had to cheat on this one, because when I first came up with my top 3, I was like, they're all men, and white. And if we're not choosing Ayn Rand, what other woman would I think would be amazing to talk to? But I had already chosen my 3, so you see this conundrum that I was in, and I thought so. So my number 2 was Richard Feynman, the physicist. And I read his book, both 6 Easy Pieces and Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman. Nikos, you're getting darker and darker. Did your ring light go out?
It's the light went. I'm like Atlas Part 3. The light of the world is going out.
The lights are getting dimmer on Nikos. But so I think having a dinner with Feynman would be awesome. But then I thought, I would also love to know Madame Curie. And then I realized I want to be at a dinner with Dick Feynman and Madame Curie, and I just want to listen. I just want to listen to what they have to say to each other. And I know I would be absolutely blown away. It would be the most knowledgeable, entertaining. I think I would laugh my butt off. I would learn stuff about physics and radioactivity that I never knew before, and would probably forget the next morning, but it would be an amazing time. So that's my cheat choice. I want to be a fly on the wall, maybe a fly that can speak a little bit while I listen to Dick Feynman and Madame Curie go at it.
Okay, so that's technically 2 people. So let's say we have 3 people that Zach should go to. By the way, I've changed my mind now. I want to go to dinner with Ayn Rand. I mean, if I'm not intimidated by Stalin, I think I could do fine with Ayn Rand. So second would be definitely Michael Jordan, but not for the usual reasons. Most people would ask Michael Jordan things related to what happened in that game. I want to ask him, how did he become the most hardworking athlete perhaps of all time? How is it, Michael Jordan, that you would come back from a flight, from an away game, let's say at 2:00, and then at 6:00 in the morning, you have training? When did you sleep? How did you manage to play golf for 5 hours at the day of a game and then be at the game and be at that level? So it would be curiosity, but curiosity about these very, very, very small things. Like, were you stressed? How could no one ever see it? How could you hold your nerves when you knew you were the most well-known athlete or even perhaps person in the world in the early 90s? Like, you knew that all the eyes of the world were on you. How did you deal with it? How did you handle it? So this would be my second choice. And because we're running out of time, we're not going to have a third choice, although we heard who would be Zach's third choice. So Thomas, who would be your third choice? So without going deep into it.
Without going deep into it, my third choice would be Mike Mentzer.
Ooh.
Mike Mentzer.
The bodybuilder who was influenced by objectivism.
A bodybuilder who was influenced by objectivism. Just his mind and the way he thought through everything, and the fact that he was also a byproduct of Arthur Jones, who was the creator of the Nautilus system. What's interesting is at that time, the world, like the fitness world, was going through a battle of philosophy in and of itself. You had Joe Weider, whose poster boy was Arnold Schwarzenegger, pushing the high volume approach and lots of supplements. Then you had the Arthur Jones, and his poster boy was Mike Mentzer, pushing a more focused, principled philosophy on training. And because Arthur Jones was not a very likable man, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is very charismatic, we know who won that philosophical battle.
I'm looking forward to hear more about that in Ocon. Hopefully, we're also going to train together.
Absolutely.
I want to recommend, I did just finish watching the documentary called Arnold, about Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's 3 hours long. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was a true, like, American hero story. He said that he felt it wasn't until he got to America that he actually felt like he was finally at home. We forgive him the errors that he made in politics, but he truly a self-made man.
By the way, Zach, are you coming to Ocon?
I am not coming to Ocon, unfortunately, this year.
That's a pity.
Sorry, guys. You guys are just going to have to come out to Silicon Valley, and we'll have like a mini Ocon here.
Okay. Till then, we will see you in the collective. So tonight, upcoming 10 p.m. UK in time, live on Earth with Robert Nasir. On Here Is the News, the late edition. So more stuff in ARCUK, UK, always happening. Okay, that's your daily collective for this Thursday. Till next time, thank you for watching. Thank you for participating, for giving us your support and your super chats. All the best.
Bye, everybody.